always with you.
A lovely evening and thank you for joining us. This is Times News with me, Elita Soko. First, the headlines. 34 kidney failure patients struggle with only 6 working dialysis machines available for use at Kamuzu Central Hospital. 46 billion kwacha lost at Malawi Leaf Company as a result of conspiracy by managers. And in our special report, Sam Kalimira tells a story about the illusion that is inclusive education. We have these and other stories. Do stay with us. Led to the death of 4 people this year alone. Blessings Mpinganjira has more in this report.
Chairperson of Kidney Foundation, a group advocating for the welfare of kidney patients, Frank Mwali, said the kidney unit at Kamuzu Central Hospital is failing to accommodate the 34 patients in need of the dialysis machines. He said out of the 14 machines, only 6 are operational and they assist patients from the northern and central regions. On the other hand, health expert Maziko Matemba described the situation as worrisome.
What is more important is how we prioritize in our budgeting. I know that most of the resources are controlled COVID-19 response because of the measures of the pandemic. But I'm aware we can also take advantage of COVID-19 support to consider maybe buying some other vital equipment who also as important as others. So that
Minister of Health was readily available to make a comment. Malawi does not handle kidney transplant and refers patients to India and South Africa.
A forensic audit at Auction Holdings Limited, AHL, has revealed a loss of 46 billion kwacha by the Malawi Leaf Company as a result of managers conspiring to siphon the funds. According to the audit, management and private companies siphoned money out of the company using hidden identities of customers buying tobacco from outside Malawi. Rebecca Jimjeka has compiled this report read by Blessings Mpinganjira.
The report says the suspects could retrieve back the money through commissions paid by the said hidden companies that were being paid to General Manager Jimmy Kasamale and Financial Controller Francis Madonna, among other people. Mr. Jimmy Kasamale reported to the board that Malawi Leaf Company was making a loss of $40 million for the year 2017. The board was surprised and became suspicious and requested an audit which revealed suspicious activities involving sale of tobacco to Mauzi contractors and Master Freight Shipping Company, who profited from the deal from 2014 to 2017. Meanwhile, CSAD Executive Director Willy Kambandira has asked government that people involved should be held accountable.
Moving forward, we demand that people in companies that are being involved in their practice, as mentioned in the forensic audit report, they should be held accountable. They should be investigated. We need to recover the 46 billion kwacha that is being mentioned. Malawi Leaf Company was a state-owned company run by taxpayers' money, so we need to recover this money.
Malawi Leaf Company Limited was a subsidiary company wholly owned by Auction Holding Group of companies.
Now, after 2 decades, practically her whole life without setting foot in a classroom, a 23-year-old woman with a physical disability has come to realize that inclusion is often only emphasized on paper. In this special report, Sam Kalimira takes us to Kosolo in Nzimba South, where this woman is unable to attend school.
Dorothy Banda, age 23, has never stepped her feet in a class since she was born. She feels sad, ashamed, sidelined, and sometimes sheds tears when she remembers that she is illiterate.
I admire my friends going to school, mainly those educated. I cannot read and write, even my name, because I've never stepped into class.
The physically challenged woman stays in Chimgonda village in Traditional Authority Kosoro, about 78 kilometers from Gender Trading Center. To reach her home from the trading center, one has to park a vehicle at Kapita Primary School and walk through 3 kilometers of hilly routes and some streams. Her parents concluded that they should not bother taking her to school because of her disability. She does not know whether she should go for Standard 1 or adult literacy education at her age. Her hope is in Member of Parliament for the area, Ackson Kalaire Banda, whom she claims she voted for during the 2019 parliamentary elections.
I voted for Ackson Kalaire Banda as our Member of Parliament. For presidency, I voted for Lazarus Chakwera. I voted at Kapita Primary School Polling Center.
Chakwera.
She sleeps in a glass-thatched house without a door cover with her young sister. Her mother spends much of her time at Gender Trading Center, where she runs a small business, while her father is usually at beer drinking joints. Dorothy, a designer and a tailor, also knows how to plait hair and charges an average of 600 waja, which some people do not even pay. She uses the little money she makes to support her young sister and brothers. During our visit, we found her cooking vegetables for lunch. There was no flour in the family, meaning the relish was all they would take for the day. Dorothy claims her family sometimes go for days without any real food. Kosoro Women Forum Director Joyce Mare says Dorothy has never benefited from government initiatives such as the social cash transfer and the affordable input program. She further says the area does not have an adult literacy school, which could be Dorothy's only hope of learning basic writing and reading skills. Dorothy's case mirrors several others of people with disabilities who are being denied access to education and other government programs due to their conditions. Mzimba South District Social Welfare Officer Bernard Nangwale has not come across Dorothy's case but promised his office will follow it up. On her part, Minister of Gender, Community Development and Social Welfare, Patricia Kariati, says it is sad that someone can reach the age of 23 years without attending any school. Kariati doubts whether the social welfare, children protection and gender officers are working to save interests of the less privileged like Dorothy.
It's really very pathetic because as the Minister of Gender, we have gender officers, community officers, social welfare, child protection officers. If you think people had to coordinate, we couldn't have those challenges because what they're supposed to do is to coordinate. What are the community gender officers? Like the villages, of course, we link up with the disability and say we have these people. But look
at age, someone should be denied the access to education because of their physical condition.
She doesn't deserve that kind of lunch in any way. She's a girl who has the rights just like any other person. And to this right, we actually entitled to her the moment she was born in this world, in this nation, Malawi. And our constitution only endorses that which she already has. To say she has that right to development, she has that right to access education, and education is the best way of empowering any other person, including Dorothy.
Nevertheless, he feels adult literacy facilities in Dorothy's area might not be inclusively accessible to people with disabilities. Member of Parliament for the area, Bandan, says he is pursuing of helping people such as Dorothy, both temporary and permanent. In the meantime, the woman with disability remains skeptical about government's seriousness in promoting inclusive education and adult literacy programs which she cannot access.
That is Sam Kalimira with that special report. Secretary to the Treasury Chancellor Simwaka has asked government institutions implicated in the 6.2 billion kwacha funds abuse to provide responses to queries within 14 days. In his written communication to the controlling officers, Simwaka says they should provide written responses accompanied by documentable evidence. Rebecca Jimjeka has compiled this report read by Blessings Mpinganjira.
Simwaka is correcting an anomaly by the auditors who did not give chance to several ministries, departments, agencies to provide responses to the queries as per audit guidelines. Meanwhile, over 60 public officers have been arrested over alleged misuse of 6.2 billion kwacha COVID funds. Public Affairs Committee is also summoning MDAs implicated in the report to provide answers to the queries. Key findings in the audit report include procurement flows amounting to 493 million kwacha, irregular allowances amounting to 80 million kwacha, irregularities in accounting for withdrawn cash amounting to 83 million kwacha, and failure to account fuel expenditure amounting to 39 million kwacha.
Speaker of Parliament Catherine Gotani-Hara says her office has received 3 letters from the opposition Democratic Progressive Party DPP on the replacement of Simon Mvua Kaunda as chief whip for the party. Kaunda lost his parliamentary seat following a Supreme Court of Appeal ruling that quashed results of 2019 parliamentary elections for Nkata Bay Central constituency. Rebecca Jimjeka has more in this report read by Audrey Kabalamula.
Speaker of Parliament Catherine Gotani-Hara has said her office has received 3 letters from the opposition Democratic Progressive Party on the replacement of Mvua Kaunda as chief whip for the party. Kaunda lost his parliamentary seat following a Supreme Court of Appeal ruling that quashed results of 2019 parliamentary elections for Nkata Bay Central constituency. Hara said her office is looking into the matter and will communicate its position. Political analyst Ernest Tindwa has described recent developments in DPP as a result of failure to manage internal conflicts and personalization of political parties.
It is a tragedy for DPP, but also for Malawi, as democracy is threatened because different parties, especially opposition parties, tend to be weakened by conflicts within their party. That is the case with AFOD, it is the case with the UDF, and the PP is also not spared. So you have opposition parties weakened, essentially because of personalization of the party and lack of intra-party democracy to resolve internal conflicts.
Sources said one faction from the DPP, led by its president Peter Mutharika, submitted the name of Koragota North East legislator Martha Lungi to replace Kaunda, while the camp led by leader of opposition Kodwa Nankuma submitted the name of Weran Chilenga.
This is Times News. We'll be back with more shortly.
Ikolole kungonjezera mayunitsi atnm kuyambira 200 kwacha kapena kuposera pamenepo mutha kukhala mmodzi mwa mamilioneya mu TNM Tikolole promotion. Koma mukaonjezera mayunitsi ndi 100 kwacha kapena kuposerapo mudzilandira mabona.
Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex!
Good health starts here.
Welcome back to the news on Times Television. Ministry of Education has stopped primary school teachers with degrees and diplomas from teaching in secondary schools. The ministry says it will come up with a way to handle such teachers in the future. Education experts have since cautioned the ministry to tread carefully on the directive, arguing it will have dire consequences on the education sector. Dale Gracious Mana has compiled this report read by Fali Banda.
The ministry issued a notice to all district education managers asking them to stop sending primary school teachers with degrees and diplomas to secondary school. The ministry has further asked the education managers to treat the notice with the seriousness it deserves. But education experts says the instruction will have negative effect on the education sector and will demotivate teachers who upgraded themselves. Executive Director of Civil Society Education Coalition, Benedicto Kondowe, explains.
The directive by government that primary school graduates should not teach in secondary schools needs to be revisited because it has a number of implications that, if not meaningfully dealt with, could create chaos within the education system.
Another education expert, Limbani Sapato, who is also executive director for Educans, said government should withdraw such teachers when it is assured that it has enough qualified personnel in secondary schools. He said currently it is suicidal to withdraw those teachers since it will reduce number of teachers in secondary schools and cause further deterioration of quality. He also said the instruction has a possibility of demotivating teachers who make their own efforts to upgrade and get right papers to teach at higher levels.
To international news now, with the COVID-19 pandemic forcing quarantines and lockdowns globally, the world's homeless face a unique set of risks of exposure. In Russia, a forbidding climate means life on the street is tougher than in most places, forcing the homeless and aid groups that help them to adapt to the times and Russian bureaucracy. From St. Petersburg for VOA, Charles Mains reports.
Throughout the peak of the pandemic, Russia joined the ranks of governments ordering its people to quarantine at home for months on end. But it was never an option available to all. Noshlezhka, or Night Shelter, is Russia's oldest charity, providing aid to St. Petersburg's homeless population, estimated at some 15,000 by authorities and more than 3 times that amount by charity organizations.
Right away, we understood that people who live on the street will have nowhere to isolate. And let's say they have a positive COVID test or symptoms, they'll have nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go because many lack the official documentation, such as a passport, necessary to reclaim their lives. Meanwhile, aid groups like Noshlezhka found their traditional work, like offering meals and beds, further hampered by pandemic conditions and lockdown rules.
At one point, we even started covering the salary of a restaurant chef who had previously prepared food donated from his cafe. And so we kept him on the job so he could prepare food for our care recipients while his restaurant was closed to customers.
Andre, who says he was cheated out of his salary after moving to St. Petersburg for work, a common story that complicates the stigma of Russian homelessness as primarily a cause of drug or alcohol abuse.
It's not right. You work so hard pouring the cement and then they don't pay you. It was only later that I fell into alcohol out of despair.
Andre and others say the economic downturn during the pandemic has left them with few alternatives to scrape out a living and fearing life on the street more than the virus.
I looked at vacancies at the employment agency and there's almost nothing. You look at those newspapers advertising jobs and there's only one.
These are stories of hard times with few easy solutions, but also of communities coming together. Despite growing government suspicion of Russia's NGOs, Noshlezhka's ranks of volunteers and donations have swelled during the pandemic.
Never in our 30 years of work have so many people given thought to and cared for homeless people as they did in 2020. In difficult moments, people naturally think about those who are worse off than themselves.
Now the organization is working to get the city's homeless vaccinated from COVID-19, opening the door to temporary shelter and the wider net of legal, psychological, and employment services Noshlezhka provides. But it's an achingly slow process. Traditional Russian red tape means many will wait years to get the official government documentation that allows them to not only get the shot, but also
have become the latest battlefield in the country's culture war.
The claim that President Joe Biden wants to ban meat consumption is false and has turned into viral memes. Still, conservatives, including some Republican lawmakers, continue to promote it. The Biden administration has no intention of limiting meat consumption, said Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack.
In the political world, games get played and issues are injected into the conversation, knowing full well that there's not a factual basis for the issue.
It started out with a false headline from a British tabloid that Biden's climate plan could limit Americans to 1 hamburger a month. That's a lot less than the current average of 3 burgers a week, according to data from the U.S. Agriculture Department. The article baselessly tied Biden's proposal to tackle climate change to a 2020 University of Michigan study that says cutting Americans' meat consumption in half would reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 1.6 billion metric tons by 2030, roughly 25% of America's yearly output. Martin Heller is one of the authors of the study.
That really is a total false connection. You know, we really didn't make any suggestions to a particular policy recommendation. And as far as I know, the Biden administration has not made any reference to our study as well.
With a false claim, meat became a symbol of personal freedom against government tyranny, turning burgers into the latest battlefield in America's culture war.
I think there's a lot of the American West and ranchers and masculinity that the right wants to associate itself with, and so steak and meat has become one of those things.
With increased awareness of the role of food production in climate change, meat consumption may be political. A 2018 Gallup poll shows that 11% of liberals say they are vegetarian, compared with 2% of conservatives. But there's no danger of the country going meatless anytime soon. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, an American eats an average of 37 kilograms of beef per year. However, they are also increasingly turning to plant-based alternatives, now commonly found in restaurants and supermarkets.
It tastes just like a burger.
Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
And that's the news tonight, but before we go, the headlines again. 34 kidney failure patients struggle with only 6 working dialysis machines available for use at Kamuzu Central Hospital. 46 billion kwacha lost at Malawi Leaf Company as a result of conspiracy by managers. And in our special report, Sam Kalimira told the story about the illusion that is inclusive education. You've been with me, Elita Sokom. You can get more on these and other stories by visiting our website, www.times.mw, liking our Facebook page, Times 360 Malawi, and following us on Twitter at Times 360 Malawi. Remember to wash your hands regularly, observe social and physical distance, and mask up. Please stay safe.